Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is said to have many different twists and turns, as well as surprises in this film by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that I'm really impressed about when it comes to Episode 9 is that J.J. Abrams is finding a lot of ways in order to introduce many different elements of the Star Wars franchise that fans have never seen before on the big screen in Star Wars history, that's truly going to evolve the Star Wars franchise and the way fans around the world actually perceive these movies based within the Skywalker saga. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to various concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very intense for moments within the third act of the movie. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of both Rey and Kylo Ren wielding ignited lightsabers in one hand each, where both of their lightsabers and both of their hands are using the Force push technique, where both of them are using it against each other, giving a parallel of what was done between both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker in Episode 3, where eventually both Rey and Kylo Ren fly in opposite directions, similar to what was done in The Last Jedi. The next describes Rey using the Force repulse technique, where it said that she stomps on the ground, creating an immense shockwave that knocks Kylo Ren down to the ground. That leads to a scene in where Rey jumps in mid-air, where she is about to strike down Kylo Ren, where he blocks her attack, and as the clash begins, the environment begins to flicker around them, changing to the world of Naboo, where Kylo is now laying on the ground and on the grass, blocking Rey's saber move where he force pushes her out of the way. It's now described to be a standoff between the two, revealing multiple large waterfalls of Naboo in the distance. It's described to be an intense lightsaber duel during their time on Naboo, or a simulation of the planet, where Kylo gains the upper hand, knocking Rey down a couple of times, where she quickly gets back up, where when she falls, it's said that her tied hair gets loose, where her hair is now said to be down and blowing in the wind, which leads to a scene in which they clash sabers again, where the environment is now back to them locking sabers on a large battlefield of the First Order, where dozens of troopers and resistance fighters are seen shooting at each other in the background. So I want to go over a couple of parts about this, obviously, because this is once again another nod to the flash fights that are going to be used in Episode 9. Now, a lot of people have been expressing mixed reactions from what we have been hearing about Episode 9, featuring these new force powers for both Rey and Kylo Ren called flash fights that literally give them the ability to evolve the concept of force bonds and flashbacks and flash forwards, and combining those abilities with actual lightsaber duels where they are either really on the planet or they are actually in a simulation of the planet of Naboo and other planets as well. So I want to go over the specific scenery that was chosen for this sequence that really does impress me, is that they are actually using the waterfalls that were seen on the planet of Naboo during the events of Attack of the Clones, right? Episode 2, where we have both, of course, Anakin and Padme, that whole entire sequence. The waterfalls, I think, are really going to stand out because we've never seen something like this in the sequel trilogy. So between both Rey and Kylo Ren fighting in daylight, now this is actually said to be a daylight sequence where they're fighting in front of the waterfalls, and it's actually said to be a moment in which Kylo Ren has the upper hand against Rey. But prior to all of this, prior to when they are actually in the simulation of Naboo or actually on the planet, what's really interesting to me is that they are using the force push technique against each other and holding it against each other, trying to either, push one or the other into a wall, similar to what was done between both Anakin and Obi-Wan inside the control room on the world of Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. You guys may recall that sequence. Same exact thing is happening here between both Rey and Kylo Ren before the flash fight begins. So what do I think about the flash fights? One thing I will say is that, honestly, guys, I think it's a very clever way by JJ in order to give us a trip down memory lane. Mind you guys that there are going to be at the very least 2 lightsaber duels in Episode 9, maybe even technically 3. Because we do know that there is a small one between both Rey and Kylo Ren at some point in time in the second act of the movie that leads to the second one in the third act of Episode 9, which is where the flash fights begin. And we also have the saber duel between the new villain, that is actually said to be the Dark Acolyte, and of course Rey and Kylo Ren. So it may very well technically be 3 lightsaber duels in Episode 9 if they're going to split them up separately like that. So what do I think about everything that's being laid out here with the flash fights, how it brings them back to the worlds of Naboo, Tatooine, Endor, Mustafar, the list goes on. Now, the great thing about this is that, yes, we do know that George Lucas handpicked some of the planets that would be featured in these flash fights in order to really make it a true callback to the originals and the prequels in a very unique way, and in a great way to honor those planets of the Skywalker saga, which honestly, guys, I think is a great move by JJ and Chris Terrio to have George Lucas involved in these flash fight sequences. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one from night to moon.